Yes, coming to NAD, can you tell us what led to the breakup of NAD?
Well,
because most people blame UDP for the break.
Yeah, people blame UDP for the breakup of NAD because I resigned from NAD. But in my resignation to NAD, I made it quite clear that I was resigning from not the political party, but NAD, the loose alliance of political parties. UDP is committed to that. And of course, that would mean that it would be, what would be a party-led alliance. It would not be, a new political party which would sponsor the candidates for either the presidential or National Assembly elections. But what really I found unacceptable, is the fact that some people tend to think that others do not have any moral standards. Others cannot measure up to the best practices. Others cannot protect the rule of law and constitutionalism. I could not really accept that. And the day prior to my resignation, I believe this was about 7th of February when I attended my 7th of February 2006. We are given a set of criteria, 7 criteria that one has to fulfill for you to be qualified to be selected as presidential candidate by NAD.
Who designed those criteria?
Well, it was designed by a committee. Designed by a committee.
And what are those criteria? Some of those criteria.
Well, some of those criteria were that you have to be a man of moral standing. You have to be electable. You have to be some kind of an orator. Those type of things. And I went to the meeting on the 7th and I said, look, I believe that I am a stumbling block to the aspirations of some members of NAD. And I reminded them that from inception I've always stressed the fact that we have to be sincere and honest. We have to face realism. If there is no sincerity, there is no amount of agreement, there is no number of documents that one can sign that would bind us together. Sincerity and honesty, that would be the binding bond between us. I said, look, I do not accept any other criteria for selection of a NAD presidential candidate other than what is stated in the Constitution of the Gambia. This is I think this is a mockery. It is something that it is a ploy that is really intended to keep us, dragging this selection process. But since I'm the stumbling block, Mr. Chairman, please, here's my letter of resignation. And I resigned, and the chairman wouldn't accept my resignation. And that's because I was going to publish it. I was going to send a copy to the IEC. The chairman would not accept my resignation and wanted some negotiations. But then I had already made up my mind that even if the chairman was successful in his negotiation, I did not think that there was any sincerity. I did not think that there was any sense of purpose amongst members. And when I resigned, I think at that time Mr. Jallo was the only person whose nomination was on the floor. I would have thought that a consensus would have been worked around Mr. Jallo, but instead I understand Mr. Salah also came back into the race. So for me,
as well as Mr. Juara too.
Well, I subsequently understand when Mr. Jallo, deferred to Mr. Salah, Mr. Juara also came in, and this just shows that really there was not that degree of sincerity that was required to keep us together in NAD. And I hope that if at all the opportunity that STGDP and people, of course, throughout the world are clamoring for presents itself to us again, we will learn from those mistakes and make sure that we are bound together by sincerity, by determination, to give to the people of the Gambia what they want and not to give to ourselves what we want.
Your party remains by far the largest opposition political party in the Gambia. But votes for both yourself and the UDP had been steadily decreasing over the last 3 elections. How do you explain this?
That is absolutely
Don't you think you should give way to a younger leadership within your party structure?
I am prepared to give the leadership of the party to anybody. I'm prepared to accede to any person within the UDP to be contest as presidential candidate. I'm prepared to concede that. And I have made that known. Even before some upheavals within the UDP, I had made that known that anyone who is willing to take up the leadership of the UDP is welcome to do so. After all, I did not seek leadership of the UDP. I was drafted, and I'll be quite willing to relinquish the leadership position, and for that matter, presidential candidate to any person within the UDP. The decline, of course, in the votes has various factors. Now, there is what you call general voter apathy in the Gambia, and it is not only UDP that has been affected by the decline in votes. Even Gambia, who won, has also been having his votes declining. So there is not decline just on UDP. But you'll agree with me that since 1996, several people whose names are on the register of voters, several thousands of them, have exited the Gambia. They are living in exile. All those people are registered members of the UDP. I'll just give a typical example. Our candidate for Combo Central, Mr. Jani, he is here with his family of about 15 to 19 people, and they are all registered voters. And their names are on the register of voters. So they have not voted. Yeah? So these are some of the factors that really explain for UDP's decline in votes. In addition, of course, to we cannot ignore the fact that there has been general vote apathy in the country.
Do you genuinely believe that free and fair elections can ever take place under the rule of President Jammeh?
Well, I don't want to be too pessimistic. I also do not want to be too optimistic. I'll just stay in the middle and say that I hope that the officers and the commissioners at the Independent Electoral Commission will be men who will follow the dictates of their conscience, that they will be men who will want to leave behind them a legacy which their children and grandchildren will be proud of. And I hope that they will be and act like the Electoral Commission in Sierra Leone, which commission did not care who was a minister, did not care who was a president or vice president. All that they cared about was that these are two candidates competing for the office of president and competing for various electoral, for the various elective offices. So they never had any bias for any of them. I hope that our Independent Electoral Commission will do the same.